Something that I have to say as I talk about these songs and Brother Bring the Sun is how much music I was listening to by John Mayer at the time, and still am. John is still one of my favorite artists, but I think at that time a lot of us, that's 2005, 2004. At that time he was such a new thing, and I think a lot of us were still so blown away by what he was doing. I know that I listened to the Room for Squares album so much even before that because he was playing around Nashville a lot. And What Am I Gonna Do to me is just such if you listen to Back to You, that was me just kind of doing my version of that song. And I think if you know that listening to it, you kind of go, oh yeah, it's a pretty direct reference in a lot of ways, which I loved doing. I remember at the time thinking, gosh, if he hears this, because I'd met him a few times and was really fortunate to be friends with him and get to know him a little bit, but I just remember thinking, God, he's gonna hear this and think it's too much. But I was like, I think some of my favorite music has got those hat tips of their favorite artists. And I know John's always been one of my favorites. So that was definitely one of those. I remember coming up with that guitar part, Ed and I was like, no, let's do it. I think it'll be fun. And it's not too much that I feel like it's like, oh, that's what you did. But I think John, if you hear that, you'll hear little parts, I think, of his influence on that record and a few things. Because that was when he was, coming around a bunch. His music was still so new at that time. I was still really blown away by it. The song is about, What Am I Gonna Do is about, my grandmother had died, which is, I know, heavy and hard, but I was writing it from my grandfather's perspective, and just kind of, when you've lived that long with someone, what it's like to go through a loss like that. And I think I had a lot of people kind of ask me what that pre-chorus meant, the sinner saint thing. And I think I was just trying to communicate the confusion, that you go through from losing somebody that you've spent 40 plus years with. And so I remember that. I know that's always been one of Wirtz's favorites. I actually used to play it another way. And I can't remember if Ed or Matt was like, what if you tried this other thing? And so I straightened it out. But I remember that was one that Wirtz and I would always play live. Like if it ever got to where we didn't know what to play, he'd be like, what am I gonna do? It was a certain wink he gave me. Another one meant that he was hungry, so I was always confused sometimes which the wink he was giving me. But that's one that's probably one of my favorite live songs to play with Matt, because he and I, that's such a fun song to play. And I love the recording of it. I think that was a really fun, that's like the kind of rock and roll song on the record, and so it was fun to have one of those, because live it was it's so much fun. I still love to play it now. But it's definitely, and too, I loved the minor key, the minor thing on the bridge. That was another sort of like, ooh, flashy. Oh, can you see this? What's this? And now it's gone. Now there's a bird on my shoulder. That's not a bird, it's a baby.